is there a whistleblower who comes out and says, I was in the room when Joe Biden had no idea what was going on and he was forced to sign something.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with managing editor Chris Irvine.
Hey.
And Chris, let's talk about the Autopen craze that's
Sure.
taking over at least the House Oversight Committee, and also it's generating a lot of fascination on social media. And you mentioned something this morning when talking to the rest of the editors, that you think Autopen has sort of become shorthand for like a broader, specific subset of the Biden aging scandal. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think you don't want to necessarily get distracted by the shiny object. And in this specific case, the shiny object is the Autopen, which has been used for years and years, dating back, I think, as far as Thomas Jefferson, who had a kind of device similar to that. It was used famously an awful lot with JFK. Bush and Obama famously used it quite a lot as well, becoming kind of serious news stories at certain points. But yeah, I think what people are getting distracted by who controlled use on the pen. I think it also, which is important, but it goes back to just general access to the Oval Office, to Biden, who was controlling access to Joe Biden. And I think that kind of people who are in his ear, decision making, maybe kind of telling him what to do, that's all part of it. Autopen is just one part of it, but I think it's more of an overall influence operation and who was kind of running the show, who was pulling the strings.
So do you think that there's a likelihood that anyone could get to the bottom of that? Because, this is like uncharted territory. It's not clear that that's necessarily criminal. So it's not clear that the DOJ, which has stronger investigative tools, could look into that. Is Congress set up to look into that? Or could we just maybe never find out what happened?
Oh, God. I mean, I think it's a tough one, isn't it? Because ultimately, if there's going to be a break on something, then is there a whistleblower who comes out and says, I was in the room when Joe Biden had no idea what was going on and he was forced to sign something, or Joe Biden simply wasn't aware that something was happening and somebody had co-opted the pen to sign it on his behalf. But I'm sure these operatives, unfortunately, I can't imagine there'll be a situation where they will rat one another out, because, like you say, is there anything illegal that's happened here, or is it taking advantage of an old man, or did Joe Biden know exactly what was going on at all times, and this is just kind of a narrative that's spun completely out of control? You can maybe not get an answer that's satisfactory, but it shouldn't stop the media and the Republican oversight Republicans and others from trying to pursue the truth, so that it doesn't happen again and we don't live in this kind of area of shadows and questions. You want your president to be this figure that is unequivocal, and there's no kind of gray area that people can really kind of prod doubts in. I don't know if there will be a conclusion to that, but we should certainly try as hard as we can to find it.
Shifting gears a little bit, Secretary of State, National Archivist, National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, He's growing in influence in the Trump administration and has had sort of this remarkable ideological transformation to become someone who's really the tip of the spear in the MAGA foreign policy world, whereas, a knock on him in 2016 was that he was maybe more associated with the Bush foreign policy wing. So talk about his growing influence and his, rise in MAGA world.
For sure. I think what's been really interesting about Rubio as he's assumed a more prominent position in the administration is how much the Secretary of State is affecting domestic policy. Now, normally you would think the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, comes to mind of somebody that is constantly shuttling around the world, having these diplomatic talks in the back channels, and you don't see him for 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden he pops up in another country. Rubio seems to be almost omnipresent, partly I think from the jobs that he has, but he's taken on this leadership role specifically in the fight over visas with Harvard and other universities, and he's been incredibly vocal, incredibly aggressive about it. And I think it's really interesting that while you might make an argument that traditional foreign policy such as negotiating with over Ukraine or Israel and China, maybe that's stalled in some situation. They seem to be kind of going all guns a-blazing at home, and Rubio's been a central part of that. And just to talk about the ideology, yeah, he has changed his tune, no doubt, over the years, and I think some of his Democrat Senate colleagues have said as much, saying that they're disappointed in how he's talking and acting. But let's remember here, he's carrying out a job on behalf of President Donald Trump. It's not up to him to espouse what his views are. Mm-hmm. When he's Senator Rubio, he can say stuff and do stuff in a certain way, but his job is to carry out the wishes of the Trump administration. And I think people kind of forget that he is carrying out a job, mm-hmm. and it's not about putting in his own ideology. If he wanted to do that, he could be an opinion writer or a commentary writer. He's carrying out a very specific job, and his personal feelings shouldn't get in the way of his professional actions.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more reporting from Chris and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.